Hey everyone, welcome to an advanced sports analytics application tutorial. In this video, we're going to be covering our volume and efficiency NFL application. We found in our NFL dropdown menu. This is a useful tool for looking at historical trends in players, volume and efficiency metrics. So looking at how efficient running backs are per rush attempt, or how many how many DraftKings points receivers are scoring per target that they receive. These are examples of efficiency metrics, or volume metrics might be stuff like average snap percentage that a running back has been on the field during the 2020 season, or the target market share a tight end has received over the last 3 games. These are examples of what we call volume metrics. And it's really just a tool for looking at players' averages and trends in these different volume and efficiency metrics. So there's a number of inputs you can use to specify the set you want to look at. One of which is date range bracketing. So we're kind of about halfway through the NFL 2020 season. So I think it's a decent time to look exclusively at 2020 data, especially with regards to volume metrics, where players, usage trends that existed in 2019 might be vastly different from what we've seen now in this 7 to 8 game sample in 2020, just due to roster changes, stuff like that. So you can select date range we want to start at, date range we want to end at, and then we can type in players that we want to look at. So, I think just an interesting team to look at would be like the Packers skill players. So Davante Adams and Robert Tonyan, Lazard. Right now we're looking at mostly pass catchers here. And then we can, in tabular form, produce average metrics for this date range for these players. And we can type that into the table column. So if we want to look at like the average snap count, average target share, average air yard share, and DKP per target received of these different receivers, we'll then produce a table with all these metrics for all these players and the average of those metrics within the state range. So, we can see that per game in games that he's played, Lazard has garnered the highest snap share. Davante Adams is suppressed a bit because I think there's a game where he got injured mid-game. We can see over the course of the year, Adams has just clearly commanded the largest target share on his team and air yard share. But a guy like Tanyan has shown a little better efficiency per target. Same could be said for Lazard. And a useful way for looking at this stuff in tabular format. But I think it's also, and I find myself looking more at trends in some of these metrics over the course of the year. And I think it's particularly useful in understanding how team, especially volume metrics, work in the context of different injuries. So we can switch over to the time series tab and take a look at a single single variable on the y-axis that we want to chart versus time, and all our players that are selected over here. And there's some interesting like little graphical interactive tools that we can use. The only one I really use regularly is just compare data on hovers, so that you can put your cursor next to the different data points and view the data associated with that X value for all the different groups we're looking at. So we can see here in week 7, Adams 92% snap share, MVS 82, Tanyan 50. Great, I think it is particularly interesting looking at this in time series to see how things change with injuries. So, we know that Davante Adams has been active the last 2 weeks, but was inactive in I guess, weeks 3 through 5 here. And it was just interesting if we, enter a game in the future where Adams is out. It's interesting to see how target share is, increased or decreased relatively for some of these players that were active. We saw in Adams' first game out, Lazard just commanded a 25% target share, which was, the highest he recorded on the season until he went down with injury. We saw some increased volume for even guys like Tanya and MVS here in these weeks when both Lazard and Adams were out. And following Adams' return, we can see that Tanya and MVS have kind of returned to this lower target share, particularly Tanyan, that we observed in prior weeks when Adams was healthy. You can do similar stuff with running backs, like even looking at when Aaron Jones was inactive. So we can see, and if you want to drop certain players from the visualization, you can do so by single clicking on their name. So like, let's say we wanted to drop Adams, and we'll drop Lazard, and now we're just looking at MVS, Jones, and Tanyan, and want to get a sense of how I don't know, these guys' target shares moved around in games in which Jones was active and inactive. We can hover over and we see that I guess Jones has played every game this year except for week 7. We still saw a reduction in or kind of lower target levels for Tanya and MVS, maybe supporting the hypothesis that the injury to Aaron Jones, who has plays a pretty prominent role in the pass game, doesn't really have much of an impact on Tanya or MVS, but as we have seen, it's been a good sign for Jamal Williams, who in the absence of Aaron Jones has, aside from this one game, been held to this kind of sub 10, sub 5% target share. But with Jones out, we can see with our hover, like these are all games Jones is in. We got a little Jones icon box. Williams with that low target share, and the games that Jones has been out, that one game, super high relatively, I guess, for Williams, close to 15% target share. And there's also other information around here like opponent score. I think there's a point in this season where there was, I think, really interesting trends around Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard's usage relative to score. I think we were noticing that in these games which Cincinnati was playing from behind, lost to Cleveland, lost to Chargers, there was kind of elevated target share for Gio Bernard, and really the Mixon only achieved some of these higher target shares in games that Philadelphia, it looks like, tied in overtime, or I'm sorry, Cincinnati tied Philadelphia in overtime, or Cincinnati beat Jacksonville. I think that hypothesis was kind of flipped on its head when we saw Mixon post this big target share in massive loss to Baltimore. But something we were working with, I think, early in the season. Yeah, and so a useful way to kind of use this tool. You can also download the raw data that will just show the raw data that's used to chart this time series, or is aggregated as part of this table if you want to work with the raw data in any way. And that'll download that into an Excel form.